Factor the Future, people-powered health podcast focused on trends shaping the future of manufacturing. I'm Alexandria Bjork, your host, here with A.W. Schultz, two thought leaders with a passion for people and manufacturing. Today and every episode, we are diving deep into the advancements, sustainable practices, and dynamic changes transforming how we produce everything.
And now welcome Alexandria Bjork and A.W. Schultz.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Factor the Future. I'm here with A.W. Schultz. I'm Alexandria Bjork. And today we're going to be talking about dark factories. So in typical fashion, as A.W. is furiously reading articles and studies and case studies and doing all of his wonderful research, he came across some interesting details on dark factories. And this is something we've been talking about in a very roundabout way on the show. So we figured today we'd get right into the heart of it. So A.W., go ahead, open us up.
Okay, thanks, Alexandra. And the concept, I'm not going to say it's a new concept, but it's primarily based on China. That's where my research came out of. And having, in preparation for this call, I had done a little more deep dive into it. And a lot of times these dark factories, so the concept is that these factories run in such automation that they don't need lights anymore. It's more of a theory-based thing. I don't know if they actually shut off all the lights, but the idea is that you could, meaning that there's minimal staffing to run these things. And the research that I had done was primarily looking at electronics or home appliances that they assemble, and then in the foods industry, but also certainly in China, the automotive industry, especially in the EV, is becoming very, very prevalent. Mainly because China is facing some where the labor used to be relatively affordable. The expenses have gone up to be more competitive, and automation has been the way they've answered to it. So, I mean, when you talk about Industry 4.0, I was thinking about this call. It's you wouldn't call it Industry 5.0 because it's not really talking about sustainability.
Human. There's not a lot of human aspects here.
Yeah, they're actually getting rid of the humans. But it is using Internet of Things, digital twins, big data, and they're running the data-driven decisions. And what was interesting is that it's kind of a paradigm shift from where you'd had your factory workers. Now they have what would be like technicians or engineers that do the maintenance on the equipment that supplies them. And the idea is that they can go for weeks or months without having interactions from humans. And it's kind of an interesting concept. And it's, like I said, primarily came around in the China market where the term dark factory is. But if you do any kind of search on there's several articles that you can find about dark factories. But what they had in this literature in this study was 3 cases that they talked about smart factories or dark factories. And one is hair industries, and they make appliances. Another one was a heavy industrial manufacturer, and the other one was another appliance manufacturer that they have been making what they discerned their output has increased by what they said 8 or 12%, and the energy consumption has come down like 15%. So it's been some returns on that.
That seems interesting. Can I just pause for 1 second? So the production only increased by 8 to 12%. I would have expected it to like double or 50% improvement in output or something. And I would have expected a larger energy requirement. So I guess I don't want to steal too much of your thunder, but maybe two points of observation in talking about this study that maybe we could come back to. And then also, if there was any reasoning as to why energy production went down versus up. I don't know what anybody else in the audience might have been thinking as you shared that, but that gave me like a real surprise and pause because I would have expected with so much more animation to the point where people aren't being used to make goods that there would be more energy usage and consumption. So,
Well, yeah, to your point, they are making it more efficient. So there's the idea of less wasted energy.
yep.
And what I don't know is if they're meeting their demands from output. So that could be playing a part in it. But in the articles that I read, they also said that it's still theory based and there's still a lot more research that goes into this. So
Okay.
that could also drive it. And but there's a shift in what we call the maturity model, what they have, and a lot of it
Hmm.
comes back into the management staff on it. So what they highlighted is, you start with there's like four maturity models that
Yep.
they mention. One is your conventional manufacturing. That's kind of what we all, we talk about, applying operations with digital technologies. And then
Yep.
you got your smart factories, which is digitalization and automation. And then they had another one that's called highly automated factories, which is, minimal humans and advanced automation. And then what they call the dark factory, which is fully unmanned operation relying on intelligent systems. And while it's still kind of in the theory-based mode, because it brings a different perspective to where it can come from. And what they mentioned is that you have to make a different mindset as far as the challenges go, because you can't define on short-term results. It's a long-term investment. And I also
Hmm.
imagine that these dark factories have to be somewhat agile, so they have a lot of flexibility that they can meet the demands of what they're doing, especially if they're doing appliances. Because I mean, as you and I know, that kind of finished product is always changing and evolving and
Yeah.
improving. But from the managerial directions, they were saying, they had to restructure and change kind of the platforms on it. So there was less, we'll say, middle managers, but more. There's less
Skilled,
managers.
advanced,
Yeah.
skilled, advanced, like engineer types, problem solvers, people who are configuring the machinery to adapt to the different types of manufacturing and product evolutions.
Yes. And
Yeah.
there's also
It's,
the governance that has to go into integrating that Internet of Things and AI,
yeah.
with data security.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, going back to some of our previous conversations about data security, I would say, in addition to kind of just a general maturity assessment of your organization, you would also want to make sure that you have got a real significant improvement and really great rules for your data security because if I mean, even if the power goes out, obviously that would shut any factory down. But I think those factories would be even more susceptible to some of the risks there with that. So even just probably having generators, depending on the type of um, manufacturing and demand you're trying to meet. It's interesting that when I we had talked about the 8 to 12% production improvement, you had mentioned that they were meeting demand. As I was doing the research on the featured case or study, which was Seeker, the Chinese auto manufacturer, maker, out. One of the things that they had mentioned, or I guess I raised as a concern, was are they going to overproduce and be left with so much supply that their value decreases. And I think it's wise for companies to really take that into consideration. Like, great, it's awesome that we have this capacity to do more, but also let's not do too much more to the point where um, you've just flushed the market with all the supply. I guess another interesting concept or potential future path for this could be almost something like if we go, let's just fast forward 20, let's say 20 years down the road, right? And every factory is like basically a dark factory. I could see it being where maybe it's like a shared factory. So maybe Volvo makes their cars from, 12 in the morning or for, the first week of the month. And then BMW makes their cars for the second week of the month, where there's almost this like factory sharing So that way companies aren't, they can reduce the expense of having this equipment, these spaces, and all that other stuff, but not overproduce demand. Almost like I'm almost thinking about even like Starlink, right? Like they will ship other competitor stuff up into space to fill their kind of capacity where Starlink doesn't need to use it. So I'm wondering, is there a possibility of something like that? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the foods industries, there's a lot of different co-packers are out there that go out there specifically meeting those demands.
Huh.
Automotive, I haven't thought about that. But one of the one of the articles that I had read talked about the EV vehicles that they're being made in China, that they're actually, what you just said, worried that they're overproducing. And certainly with some of the tariffs, they're being restricted by how much they can put into the
Yeah,
market.
export. Yeah.
And China is the one who is the leading manufacturer in the world, representing about 30% of all manufacturing, and they're also the leading EV car producer in the world. So yeah, they want places to go with it, and it sounds like they've got strong relationships with some of the Asian countries and Brazil.
Yeah.
That's where much of what they're doing for the sales on it.
Yeah.
One of the things that they also said, as far as the challenges that they're seeing, is supplier readiness. So you can be a smart factory, but if you can't get the materials in on time or export it on time, that's turning into a bit of the bottleneck. And
I
then
was going to ask about that. So, how does the supply chain side of this work, right? So, like, if this is a dark factory, did you come across anything in your research where there was at least some type of receiving um,
yeah,
person, or is that all automated as well? So, so let's just say a person who's actually driving a truck. Let's say it's a LTL load, like right, less than a truckload. So they deliver a pallet of whatever for whatever inventory. So then the automated what picks it up and logs that inventory.
yeah, they didn't discuss that. It was just mainly just the manufacturing process they talked about. I
Yeah.
gotta imagine those things, those people are still in place. Um, but I mean, that's kind of the evolution of it. But
I mean, you think about it, you could probably pretty much have like a nice forklift that has some ability to scan. And maybe it's even almost like some of those early iterations of um, robots where there's a person who's operating that forklift remotely for specific delivery period, right? Like taking the inventory and making sure quality looks good, and then from video, right? And then remote controlling that forklift to the inventory section or whatever, and then it's kind of logged, and then from then it's just like a weight or piece count situation.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's been around for quite a few years. I remember when I was working for the PepsiCo, we had robotics that they'd blow mold the the bottles, and then they'd have an underground a roadway from the blow plant to the bottling plant, and it was just being taken by robots. And this was
Oh,
10,
that's
12
cool.
years ago. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's really cool.
But I don't know how the scanning would work. And there's when I see trucks turning,
Yeah,
I always see the guy holding the paperwork and the other guy
I
holding the
know. That's
paperwork,
why.
typing
Yeah,
everything in. But
yeah.
to
From
your
like,
point, scanning.
yeah, scanning. I mean, it would feel like it has to scan. And I mean, I think there are so many different, regardless of what mode of transport and what your transportation situation is, there's so many different technologies out there that you can use to probably also automate that. But I really would be interested to know how that part fits into the manufacturing piece, and how they marry up those two kind of experiences and actions.
Yeah, no, those are great questions.
Yeah. What else do you have for us?
The well, the case studies I'd mentioned on it in this, I mentioned the three examples. But for the most part, I think this is a topic we want to maybe bring back again at some time when we have a little more answers to some of the questions you had.
Yeah.
But I think I think it's interesting to talk about because I mean, in the U.S., it's not really a term that that's come around that often. I found it in just my research onto it, and you and I knew right away what it meant.
Yeah.
The concept of it is just like lights out, and
Yeah.
it's completely automation. But that's China's look on dark factories.
Well, I met someone over the weekend and it was a serendipitous timing. And he had said he has actually toured a dark factory in like the US. And he's like, it's been like that for years. Like, he's like, one engineer runs it. That's it. There's nobody else involved in the entire factory operation. So I think that's pretty interesting. And yeah, I love the idea of maybe revisiting this and then just taking kind of dark factories from a supply chain point of view and seeing what we could come up with to answer some of these questions at a later time.
I think they're great questions, and if anybody of
Yeah.
our listeners know of an
Yeah.
example of a dark factory in the U.S., I'd certainly like to look them up and see
Yeah.
see how it operates. Maybe we can get somebody on the show.
That would be cool. That'd be cool. Well, AW, are we clocking out?
We are clocking out like finished goods. Thank you.
We're out.
This is Factory of the Future, and we are out of here like finished goods. Stay tuned for our next episode of Factory of the Future, where we're exploring groundbreaking techniques and behaviors that are reshaping industrial landscapes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review and help others discover the cutting-edge insights transforming manufacturing as we know it.